Good morning, my friends. Let's do that one more time. Good morning, my friends. So let's hear it with some zeal. Good morning, my friends. There we go. Zeal. I got really excited this week. I found a story that just so connected with what I was feeling that I wanted to share it with all of you today. And it's a little unusual, this story. Has anyone ever known like a young man who was like had a lot of bravado and but you could sense that they were a leader, but but people were a little bit scared of them, but a little bit of in awe of them? Have you ever known someone like that? So this is a story about some of that characters in this story. So this person, this bravado, this person is hanging out, and all of the other children are kind of in awe and a little bit afraid, and they're hanging out with him, and they kind of treat him like he's the king, right? And people, when people are coming by in the village, they're like, no, you've got to come over here first and pay tribute to the king. Some of us, when we're like that, we're like, yeah, okay. And we don't want to do it, but, to make the kids happy. So, have you ever had a little kid in your life that just insists that you do something? If you haven't had that experience, the next time my nephew comes to town, I'll invite you all over. So they're bringing him over. So while all of this is happening, there's another group of children that have wandered off. And suddenly you see a group of adults carrying back one of the children. See, a number of children had gone out to gather wood. They've gone out to gather wood. And this one young boy sees a partridge nest filled with eggs. And so he reaches to take the eggs. He's excited about seeing these eggs. And so he reaches to grab an egg, but there is a serpent in the nest. A venomous serpent, and so it bites him, and he yells out, and so the other children that are looking come, and they find him, and he has died from this venomous serpent bite. And now he's being brought back into town, and so these other young children that are with the boy king, they're like, no, you've got to come over here, and they're like, no, we're in our mourning, we're not going to do that. And see, this story is so important, and I was so excited about it because it is filled with symbolism, with metaphysical interpretation that brings us to the truth of who we are. See, wood, when we consider wood, why would we gather wood? We gather wood to build a fire. And metaphysically, fire represents cleansing. It represents purification. And what we know about fire is that fire consumes only when it meets anything that is unlike itself. So we have this spiritual fire, this living spiritual energy that is within us that cleanses away anything that is untrue. And so we go out sometimes seeking tools for transformation. We do that here sometimes, don't we? Maybe you keep a gratitude list. If you don't, I want to invite you to keep a gratitude list. Prayer and meditation, we talk about that a lot. Another one that we're going to be talking about more soon as we study the 4 spiritual laws of prosperity is forgiveness. So we have all of these tools that help us burn away that which is not true in us. And so we all have this idea of gathering wood because we want to transform. The truth of who we are wants to transform so that you can be the Christ of your being. So that you can show up as Curtis Christ, yes? And Steve Christ. And Patty Christ. We all want to show up as the Christ that we are being called to be. But in this desire, in this journey to find these tools, sometimes we get distracted. Have you ever been distracted? I get distracted a lot. And sometimes we get distracted because we see a nest. Right? A partridge is an important bird in Scripture because the partridge will abandon its nest. I don't know if you know this, but the partridge will abandon its nest and then steal someone else's nest. You know, there's a scripture, Jeremiah 17 verse 11 tells us this. Like a partridge that hatches eggs it did not lay are those who gain riches by unjust means. When their lives are half gone, their riches will desert them, and in the end they will prove to be fools. How many times do we see someone else's riches and we want those for ourselves? We're not living according to the Christ of our being. And so we have this desire. You know, we start with this desire to be the Christ, but then we get distracted because we think, oh, that person has the Christ. That person has their abundance. That person is being prosperous, and we decide that must be the way. But we fail to realize that that's their way. And each of us has our own life path, our own internal calling. That internal calling, I told you last week that our zeal is our transcendent desire to access and use the unlimited wellspring of life, intelligence, and substance within us. That wellspring in you. And so that's the direction that we're moving in, but we sometimes get distracted. We see these eggs that represent the wonderful possibilities that exist for you. As you embody the Christ, as the Christ of you awakens. So we get distracted and we reach out and we get bitten by a venomous serpent. Right? And the serpent in our scriptures, when we look at both the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures, we see that the serpent represents sense consciousness. See, when we start reaching for someone else's good, when we start reaching out to try and follow someone else's path, we have been distracted by sense consciousness. We are believing that this material playground, that sure is a lot of fun, but we're deciding this is the point of life. That this is the point of life, and this is simply the playground where we learn how to be love. To be love over and over again, to just show up as love, because we say God is love, and therefore we know we are love, but we get distracted. Anybody get distracted? Yeah, a couple of people are waving at me here in the sanctuary. I hope you're waving too at home. And see, we also have to look at the children. See, the children in this story, they represent all of these thoughts that we have. These myriad of thoughts. These are our thoughts embodied. And see, the children that are here, that are surrounding their boy king, this king is our executive faculty. It is our will. It is that governs and directs all in us through the indwelling Spirit. This unlimited wellspring of knowledge, intelligence that's in us, that's tied to Spirit. And so we turn to that king, that executive faculty, this leader that shows us how to live and be the Christ that we're being called to be. Right, so this story is rich with symbolism and how we do this, and then still it's It's so common for us here in this playground to desire or to even gain riches by unjust means, right? Like we learned in Jeremiah. To gain riches by unjust means. Okay, and I want to be clear that unjust does not mean illegal, right? Just because something we know that just because something is legal does not mean it's just. And when I say that it's not just, I mean it is not in accordance with the truth you know. And the truth you know has to lead all of your actions if you're truly invested in this unity way of life, right? Because we must live the truth we know. It's not enough to know the truth, right? That fifth principle, we have to step in to this truth and live from that in order to unleash and be the Christ of our being. And see, this awakening, this desire that lives in us, when this desire is coming from the correct place, when it is being led by Spirit, it is the awakening of divine dissatisfaction. Divine dissatisfaction. And divine dissatisfaction is what Winifred Wilkinson Hossman calls the beginning of our unfoldment of our zeal. See, we have to be dissatisfied that we are not claiming all of the God, good love that we know we deserve. We have to be willing to step into this truth that we deserve all the God, good love that we can imagine and even more. And so this divine dissatisfaction awakens in us a desire for change. Not change out here, right? But change within. Because we know that the only sustainable change is that when we change what happens within us, we change our thoughts and our beliefs. And this is not to be confused with disgruntled discontent. I love that. That's Winifred's words. Disgruntled discontent. See, disgruntled discontent means that we are locked here. Remember, we've talked, I use this little image, constricted consciousness, right? When we are locked in constricted consciousness, we get disgruntled discontent because we think that everything that's wrong is someone else's fault. The world has done this to me. But when we are dissatisfied, we are seeing that we are the masters, that we must turn to this internal king that lives within us to direct our faculties, to control our thoughts, to place our faith in the truth that we are divine. From this dissatisfaction, we awaken desire. Right, this desire, this burning to know more, to know ourselves as Christed beings, this desire. And that leads us to dedication. We become dedicated to this practice, this listing of our gratitudes. We become dedicated to a prayer practice, to sitting in the silence, to being in community with people who uplift us, to studying words of truth. We become dedicated to knowing the truth and to stepping into that action. And then that leads us to this experience of zeal. Zeal, this inward fire of the soul. This inward fire of the soul that urges us forward. This inward fire that is a power that Charles Fillmore called the same mighty force that ignites the winds, the tides, and the storms. Can you pause for just a moment and know That this incredible vital life force energy that is making the wind blow today here in Atlantic Beach, that's making it rain today, that is controlling the tides of the ocean, lives in and as and through you. It lives through you. Now, have you ever tried to walk out there into the ocean and to stop the tide? That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? So why could anything stop you if this energy is moving in and as you right now? And from this place of truth, we have a quickening, right? This quickening, this inflow of divine energy in the body, right? We know that this energy is living in and as and through us. That is the truth of who we are, and we know it. We know it. We know that this is truth. And then that moves us into this sixth step of opening up our zeal. And it's called genius. We become a genius, right? Because when we are a genius, genius comes from a Latin word that means this guardian deity. When you are living from this genius energy, you stop trying to impress anyone else. Have you had flashes of that in your life? You just know that you know that you know that this is right. And so we stop impressing, or this idea that we should impress, and we simply radiate from this inner spiritual power. That's worth getting excited about. That is this matured zeal coming into fruition. Right? This matured zeal coming into fruition, because matured zeal is simply energy. Energy, this power of God, good love that is within us to accomplish anything. It is zeal in motion. Charles Fillmore called that the forerunner of every effect. Right? Everything's a cause, everything's an effect. This zeal in us makes everything come into fruition when we live from the truth of who we are. And who we are is individual expressions of the divine, individual expressions of God, good love. We get to live from the Christ of who we are. Isn't that exciting? So the adults carry this boy back to the village, but that's not the end of the story. These adults carry the boy back, and so the children that are with the king, they're like, "You've come and pay homage to the king," and they're like, "No, we don't want to do that. We are sad. We are grieving." Right? How many times are you sad and grieving in this world, and you just want everything to stop? Does it stop? You ever just want to scream out loud, "Stop the world, I want to get off right now"? But see, these thoughts that are controlled by Spirit within say, "No, come to this place. Come and see." And so they bring the boy, because again, they're trying to make the kids happy, even though they're sad. And the king goes, "What happened?" And so they tell him the story. He sees a nest, he reaches, he gets bit by a serpent. And the king goes, "Well, let's go get that serpent. Let's go get that serpent." And so the parents of the boy, they're like, "No, we're not going to do that." And all of the children, the thoughts say, "No, this is what's right. This is what's right." And so they go. And they go back out, and they go to where the partridge nest is. And the king calls forth the serpent. And the serpent comes out of the nest. And the king says, "Take the venom from this boy's hand." And so the serpent goes and sucks out all of the poison. And then the king curses the serpent. And it goes away. And then the king rubs the boy's hand, and the boy wakes up. There is new life available to us always. No matter what it looks like in this world, there is new life available to us when we turn to the Christ within us. It is always there. It is always available to us. And it does not say, it does not say you have to pay me. It doesn't say you have to be good enough. You have to have not gone out in search of something to make you transform when transformation was available to you all the time. It simply is there and loves you. It is simply there and it loves you because it is God, good love. It is the truth of who you are. I am God, good love. Say that right now. I am God, good love. So most of you probably have never heard this story before, but I was so excited to find it because I was looking for a story that explained our zeal, our desire for transformation to show up beyond excitement, to show up with this inner energy that calls everything in our lives into fruition when we live in accordance with the truth of who we are. And so you don't know this story, most likely, but this story comes from a collection of stories called the Arabic Infancy Gospels. This is a story about Jesus as a child. That's not included in our Bible, but this is a story from Syria where people try to make sense of Jesus as a young child. What was Jesus like in those formative years? Because there is so much missing from our Christian scriptures. But yet this is a way that people sought to understand what Jesus was calling us to be and to do in this world. And so the way this story ends is that Jesus stroked the boy with his hand and he was healed. And the boy began to weep. And Jesus said, "Do not weep, for by and by thou shalt be my disciple." And this is Simon the Canaanite, with whom mention is made in the gospel. Simon the Canaanite, who Charles Fillmore tells us represents our faculty of zeal. And so I want to remind you today that there is nothing that you need to do but live from the truth that lives within you. This experience of God, good love that is breathing you to life right now. This internal fire that is burning away everything that is not truth. And there is nothing you have to do. Simply follow the directions of Spirit within. Follow the directions of Spirit within. And you will have new life. I love you all. Bless you. Dedri, let's move into some music and prepare us for meditation, please.
I am that I am hath sent me to this now moment. Here I am that I am hath sent me to this known on earth.
I am that I am has sent me. Now, with a deep breath, I invite you, if it's comfortable, to close your eyes, to simply become aware of your breath. Maybe unclench your jaw and relax your shoulders and your neck. Simply breathe into this space. Breathe into this moment. Hold on to this idea of zeal unfolding within you. Zeal. With a cleansing, burning breath, silently repeat this affirmation. Divine dissatisfaction awakens in me an urge toward spiritual growth. Divine dissatisfaction awakens in me an urge toward spiritual growth. Desire impels me to seek spiritual understanding. Desire impels me to seek spiritual understanding. With joyous expectancy, I dedicate myself to the will and the work of God, good love within me. With joyous expectancy, I dedicate myself to the will and the work of God, good love within me. The inward fire of spiritual zeal urges me on to greater experiences of God's good. The inward fire of spiritual zeal urges me on to greater experiences of God's good. I am quickened in mind and body by the compelling awareness of my own divinity. I am quickened in mind and body by the compelling awareness of my own divinity. I listen to the voice of God, good love within, and act fearlessly and courageously at all times and under all circumstances. I listen to the voice of God, good love within, and act fearlessly and courageously at all times and under all circumstances. I am filled with the energy of the universe. I am filled with the energy of the universe. I am filled with the energy of the universe. Think on this now in the silence. And with a deep breath, as you are ready, I invite you to bring your awareness back here to this moment of now, to this place where we are all together and we are all one. Bring with you this awareness of your own divinity here in this moment when you're ready.
I am that I am, hath sent me to this now moment. Here I am that I am, hath sent me to this now moment. Here I am. Yeah.